Good morning, Year 11. Pause the video and play when you're ready to go through the answers. Okay, so this one, we solve it in exactly the same way as we would for an equation. So we're going to subtract 2 from both sides first. So on the left-hand side, we're just left with 3x, and we've got is less than 4. We're then going to divide both sides by the coefficient, the number in front of x. So we've got 1x is less than 4 divided by 3. I'm just going to leave that as a fraction. Okay, now on a number line, I didn't tell you explicitly to do this, but on a number line, if that's 0, 4/3 is here. If we want the values of x less than 4/3, I need to put a circle directly above the 4/3, and x needs to be all of the values less than 4/3. So I'm going to have my arrow going that direction. Okay, this one, I should have told you that this is a square. Okay, so apologies for not telling you that. But if the radius is 6, you know that the diameter must be 12. So actually, the square is going to be 12 meters by 12 meters. So the area of the square is going to be 12 squared, which is 144 meters squared. And the area of the circle is going to be pi times 6 squared, which is 36 pi meters squared. So the area of the shaded bit is going to be 144 minus 36 pi meters squared, and you can just leave it like that. So we've got the whole square, we've taken off the circle, so this is what we've got left. If you've done it as a decimal, that's also fine. Okay, this one we did the other day, so we've not got a right-angled triangle, but we do have, so not this one, but we do have a side and an opposite angle. So we know that it's going to be the sine rule. We're trying to work out an angle. So we need the angle on the top. So sine capital A over little a equals sine capital B over little b. And then we just substitute our values in. So we've got sine 30 over 12 is equal to sine x over 15. If we rearrange, we can get 15 sine 30 over 12 is equal to sine x. So then to work out what x is, we're going to do the inverse of sine of 15 sine 30 over 12. And then if you just type that into your calculator, paying particular attention with the brackets, I've done this correctly, you should get an angle of 38.7 degrees to 1 decimal place. Okay. The next one, we're just going up in 2's each time, so the nth term is going to be 2n, but we need to get from 2 to 3, we need to add on 1. So the other way you could do it is work out what is the first, like the 0 term. What's the term before? Well, that's going to be 1, so it's going to be 2n plus 1. And the 33rd term, we're just going to replace n with 33, so it's going to be 2 lots of 33 plus 1 is going to be 67. Okay, you could write out all 33 terms, but that's going to take you a lot longer. So if you can understand how to do this one, it'll be a lot quicker. Right, today's lesson, we're going to do the cosine rule. So pause the video, play when you're ready to go through the examples. Okay, so just to recap with the triangle decision tree. So in your exam, you're just going to get given a triangle. The first question you need to ask yourself, is it a right angle or is it not a right angle? If it's a right angle triangle, you know we've got two options. We've got Pythagoras or we've got normal trigonometry, which is SOHCAHTOA, okay, involving a right angle triangle. If it's not a right angle triangle, we've got another two options. We've got the sine rule or we've got the cosine rule. So last week we did the sine rule, and the sine rule is when you have an angle and the opposite side. You want an angle and the opposite side. The cosine rule is not that. So usually what happens with the cosine rule is you'll have an angle and you'll usually be given a side, either side of that angle, and you might be working out the missing length, for example. But that's what we're going to be looking at today. So the cosine rule, you need to remember this formula off by heart. So if you're working out a length, this is the formula that you need. A squared equals b squared plus c squared minus 2bc cos, and remember sine, cos or tan, it's a capital letter, okay? Because when we've got our triangle, remember that the angles, okay, the angles are capital letters, and opposite them is the lowercase letters, okay? So that's for lengths. Now, to rearrange this to work out an angle, say we wanted to work out this capital A here, we need to rearrange this formula. So I'm just going to show you how you do it. You can either just remember the formula or remember this one and then rearrange it. So if you add 2bc cos A to both sides, you'll get 2bc cos A plus A squared is equal to b squared plus c squared. Just move this onto the left-hand side. But now I want to get rid of the a squared. So if I subtract a squared from both sides, I get b squared plus c squared minus a squared. And I just want the cos A. So I'm going to divide by 2bc. So I've got cos A equals b squared plus c squared minus a squared, all divided by 2bc. And that, if I just undo that one, so can I undo? Don't know if I can. Let's see what happens here. Perfect. So I'm just going to write it out again. This is the one that you need to remember for angles. Okay, so you need to write cos A equals b squared plus c squared minus a squared divided by 2bc. Can you copy that one into your book? And can you copy the lengths one into your book? Okay, and now we're going to use it. So pause the video, play when you're ready to go through the example questions. Okay, so we've got a triangle. It's not a right angled triangle. Have we got a side and the opposite angle? We have not got the value of a side and the opposite angle. So we know that this is going to be the cosine rule. We're trying to work out a length. So I need to remember my formula. A squared equals b squared plus c squared minus 2bc cos A. And A needs to be the length that you're trying to work out. So this length here needs to be little a. So that angle is going to be big A. And then it doesn't matter which one's B and C. So let's call this angle capital B. So this length little b, that one capital C, this one little c. The key is that A needs to be the length or the angle that you're trying to work out. Once you've labelled it up correctly, you can just substitute your values in. So A is x. So we've got x squared equals 8 squared plus 11 squared minus 2 times 8 times 11 multiplied by cos 71. If you type that exactly as it's written into your calculator, so 8 squared plus 11 squared minus 2 times 8 times 11 times cos 71, you should get x squared equals 127.70000048. Remember, we never round until the very last moment. If we square root both sides, so I'm just going to do square root of my answer, I'm now going to round it. So it's going to be 11.3 centimeters to one decimal place. I'm just going to check 11.3. Does that length fit with the other sides that we've been given? Sounds about right. Okay, the next one, what about the angle? Okay, so you need to remember that to work out the angle, you can rearrange your formula to get cos A equals b squared plus c squared minus a squared, all divided by 2bc. Now, capital A is the angle that we're trying to work out. So that one must be lowercase a. And then again, it doesn't matter which way around B and C are. And then we just substitute it in. So cos y is equal to 4 squared plus 5.5 squared subtract 2.5 squared, all divided by 2 times 4 times 5.5. So to work out y, we need to do cos to the minus 1 of all of this. And then if you type that into your calculator, you should get the answer. So I'm just going to type it exactly as it's written. So 4 squared plus 5.5 squared minus 2.5 squared, all divided by 2 times 4 times 5.5. And you should get that angle y being 24.6 degrees to 1 decimal place. And then you can check. Okay, even the diagram's not drawn to scale, it's a sensible angle to have. Okay, what I'd like you to do is to pause the video and to work out length of BC. So give this question a go yourself, do as much of it as you can, and then play when you're ready to go through the answer. Okay, so we're trying to work out this length. So this length, so the formula that we need is a squared equals b squared plus c squared minus 2bc cos a. Now remember, a must be the length that we're trying to work out. So even though they've put some letters on to try and help you, in this example, if that is lowercase a, this is going to be capital A. Okay, but sometimes they're going to trick you, so you don't actually need the letters that they give you. It's always worth, I'm working out this length, so that's little a, that's capital A, and then B and C can be either of these, it doesn't make a difference. So let's keep it the same for this one, but like I said, in the future examples, you can just rewrite the letters, because they are going to try and trip you up. So we've got x squared equals 20 squared plus 23 squared minus 2 times 20 times 23 cos 55. If you type that in, so we've got 20 squared plus 23 squared minus 2 times 20 times 23 times cos 55. I get x squared equals 401.30967886. Square root your answer, and you should get 20.0 centimeters to 1 decimal place. Okay, hopefully you managed to get that correct. If not, have a look through the examples that I've just done. We've now got quite a few questions for you to try. So pause the video and make sure you're marking your answers as you go in purple pen to check that you're doing them correct. Okay, so we're not going to go through those two. Here are the questions. Pause the video and play when you're ready to go through the answers. Here's the next set of questions. And then here are the answers. Make sure you're marking them in purple pen. You need to know if you're doing them right or wrong. Okay, and then here's a GCSE question. This is actually worth 6 marks. So give this question a go and then we'll go through it again in a minute. Okay, so for this one, the question says work out the length of DC. So the DC, we need to work out this length eventually. Now, how can I do it with this one? If that's 40 and that's 80, so that's 120. So I know that this one's 60 degrees. But that still doesn't help me. What I need to do to work out this angle here, this length here, I need another length. Now, what I could do is I could work out this length here. Let's call it Y. So the length BD. Now, what you could notice then is that actually you've got an angle, you've got two sides. So you could use the cosine rule. So a squared equals b squared plus c squared minus 2bc cos a. A and this one must be a as well, so that's fine. So I can keep it as it is. So I've got y squared equals 5.6 squared add 8.2 squared minus 2 times 5.6 times 8.2 times cos 78. You type that into your calculator. 5.6 squared add 8.2 squared minus 2 times 5.6 times 8.2 times cos 78. You should get y squared equals 79.50539032. If I square root my answer, I'm going to still write out this whole thing because this is not my final answer. So 8.9165795919. So y, this length here is equal to that length. So then what I can do, if I just draw out BDC, the smaller triangle. So that's B, that's D, that's C, that's 80, that's 60, and that's 40. This length here is 8.9165799519, and I'm trying to work out this. And now I've got side and the opposite angle. So now I can use the sine rule. So I'm working at a length. I'm going to have x over sine 40 is equal to 8.9165799519 over sine 80. So then if I multiply both sides by sine 40, so I've got 8.9165799519 sine 40 over sine 80. You type that into your calculator, 8.9165799519. Hopefully I've typed that into calculator correctly. Sine 40 over sine 80. You should get that x is equal to 5.8198839.5, and then you can round that. So the question says there's 3 significant figures. So it's going to be 5.82 centimeters to 3 significant figures, and hopefully that is the answer on the next page. Perfect. Okay, so to finish the lesson, we've got an exit ticket. Pause the video, play when you're ready to go through the answer. Okay, so for this one, can we work out the answer? So for this one, we can't. We've got 2 lengths, but we haven't got an angle. And for us to work out x, we would need another length here. So we would need to be given this length. So Tom is wrong. Katie says you can use the cosine rule on this one. Okay, well, we have got a side and an angle. A side and an angle. So that one I would suggest you use the sine rule, but can you work out using the cosine rule as well? You would have to know this length, I believe. So this one is going to be neither is correct. Okay, the next one. Which of the following is a correct equation based on the diagram on the right? Okay, so we've got an angle. So we need cos x, and it's going to be, so that's A and that's A. We then need B squared plus C squared. So we need something, and remember, it doesn't matter which order. So 3 squared add 11 squared minus 2 times B times C times, sorry, I've got the order wrong. Bear with me. So we're working at an angle, aren't we? So it needs to be B squared plus C squared minus A squared. So we've got B squared plus C squared minus A squared, all divided by 2BC. So which one looks like that? So we need 3 squared plus 11 squared minus 12 squared. So it's going to be this one here. Okay, the last one. Okay, so we want to work out x. We need to label that one A, that capital A, and then B or C can be 7 or 12. So Tom says you could label either the 7 or the 12 as A. That's wrong. And Katie says you could label either the 7 or the 12 as C. That is correct. So the only person who's correct is Katie. Please ask questions if you are stuck in the chat. Someone will be there to help you, and I look forward to teaching you tomorrow.